Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 26 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, day 26 on the third canto. We are in the 9th chapter, which is Brahma's prayers for creative energy, and we have just finished the prayers. His prayers were from verse 1 to verse 25. Right, so we just concluded that last time. Today we are beginning, we're going into the second section. Brahma becomes silent after his prayers, and that's just 3 verses, 26, 27, and 28. So let's just get into them. We won't read the verses separately. We'll just go through everything. So here we are. First of all, of course, our prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadesha Tarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikapaturibhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so here we go. It's day 26. We're on chapter 9 of the third canto. And section 2, Brahma becomes silent, verses 26, 27, and 28. So verse 26, the sage Maitreya said, O Vidura, after observing the source of his appearance, namely the personality of Godhead, Brahma prayed for his mercy as far as his mind and words would permit him. Thus having prayed, he became silent, as if tired from his activities of penance, knowledge, and mental concentration. Right. So, right, there's a shortish purport, quite short purport here. And first point Prabhupada makes is that Lord Brahma's enlightenment in knowledge was due to the Lord sitting in his heart. Because, as we know, after his initial, appearance, after being created, Brahma couldn't figure out the source of his appearance. But after the penance, he could see. Penance, mental concentration, he could see, and then he became enlightened by the mercy of the Lord. So Prabhupada makes the point that the spiritual master outside and the spiritual master inside, Chaita Guru means the supersoul, they're both representations of the Lord. And if you don't have contact, if you don't have connection with these representations, the two of them, outside and inside, then Prabhupada makes interesting point. One cannot claim to be a spiritual master. Yes. So Brahma, though, under the circumstances, Brahma had no opportunity to contact the spiritual master from outside, or a spiritual master from outside, because he was the only living entity in the universe. So the Lord enlightened him from within. When the Lord was satisfied by his prayers. Okay, then verses 27 and 28, they're together. The Lord saw that Brahma was very anxious about the planning and construction of the different planetary systems and was depressed upon seeing the devastating water. So therefore the Lord could understand the intention of Brahma, and thus he spoke in deep, thoughtful words, removing all the illusion that had arisen. Okay. Right, so there's a more substantial, somewhat more substantial purport here, although it's just one paragraph. So Srila Prabhupada says that the water of devastation was so fearful that Brahma, even Brahma, was in anxiety just by how it looked. Yeah. He was perturbed at its appearance, and he became very anxious about what's he going to do? How is he going to place the planetary systems in outer space to accommodate all the different living entities? And Prabhupada mentions, like the humans, those lower than the humans, and then even the superhumans, those who are higher than regular humans. Yes. So Prabhupada goes on to explain that all these different planets in the universe, they're situated differently according to the different grades of living entities in terms of their positions in the modes. Yes. So there's 3 modes. Prabhupada goes into a bit of a description of the modes and how they're operating, at least in simple terms. There are 3 modes, but when the 3 mix with each other, then 3 times 3 is 9. And then 9 times 9 is 81. And it's just, there's no real limit to it. It's unlimited. Yes. It just, the delusion under the modes in their complexities, the delusion is unlimited. It just increases and increases unlimitedly. So Brahma had to accommodate all the different places, all the different situations for the bodies, the requisite bodies of the conditioned souls. And this is just, we're talking about something extremely complex and difficult, my Lord. It's just too difficult for anyone other than Lord Brahma. So therefore Prabhupada says the task was meant only for Brahma, and no one in the universe could even understand how difficult it was, let alone do it. Yes, so anyway, Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, but by the grace of the Lord, Brahma was able to execute the tremendous task so perfectly that everyone is amazed to see the workmanship of the Vidhata, the regulator, Lord Brahma, in other words. Yes, well, I mean, it's really quite something. And just consider, devotees, each one of us, it appears, each one of us has been a Lord Brahma before. And we did all of this, and we had the capacity to do it. It's completely inconceivable to us the ways we are now. Okay, so now there's a third section and final section in this 9th chapter, and it's titled Garbhodakshai Vishnu responds to Brahma. And it's verse 29 to verse 44. So I'll just read through, as usual. I'll read through all the verses because it's like 15 or 16 verses or something. So we get the flow of the discussion. So verse 29, the Supreme Personality of Godhead then said, O Brahma, O depth of Vedic wisdom, be neither depressed nor anxious about the execution of creation. What you are begging from me has already been granted before. Verse 30, O Brahma, situate yourself in penance and meditation and follow the principles of knowledge to receive my favor. By these actions, you'll be able to understand everything from within your heart. 31. O Brahma, when you're absorbed in devotional service, in the course of your creative activities, you will see me in you and throughout the universe, and you will see that you yourself, the universe, and the living entities are all in me. 32. You will see me in all living entities, as well as all over the universe, just as fire is situated in wood. Only in that state of transcendental vision will you be able to be free from all kinds of illusion. 33. When you're free from the conception of gross and subtle bodies, and when your senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, you will realize your pure form in my association. At that time, you'll be situated in pure consciousness. 34. Since you have desired to increase the population innumerably and expand your varieties of service, you shall never be deprived in this matter, because my causeless mercy upon you will always increase for all time. 35. You are the original Rishi, and because your mind is always fixed on me, even though you'll be engaged in generating various progeny, the vicious mode of passion will never encroach upon you. 36. Although I'm not easily knowable by the conditioned soul, you have known me today because you know that my personality is not constituted of anything material, and specifically not of the 5 gross and 3 subtle elements. 37. When you were contemplating whether there was a source to the stem of the lotus of your birth, and you even entered into that stem, you could not trace out anything. But at that time I manifested my form from within. 38. O Brahma, the prayers that you have chanted, praising the glories of my transcendental activities, the penances you have undertaken to understand me, and your firm faith in me, all these are to be considered my causeless mercy. 39. I am very much pleased by your description of me in terms of my transcendental qualities, which appear mundane to the mundaners. I grant you all benedictions in your desire to glorify all the planets by your activities. 40. Any human being who prays like Brahma and who thus worships me shall very soon be blessed with the fulfillment of all his desires, for I am the Lord of all benediction. 41. It is the opinion of expert transcendentalists that the ultimate goal of performing all traditional good works, penances, sacrifices, charities, mystic activities, trances, etc., is to invoke my satisfaction. 42. I am the supersoul of every individual. I'm the supreme director and the dearest. People are wrongly attached to the gross and subtle bodies, but they should be attached to me only. 43. By following my instructions, you can now generate the living entities as before, by dint of your complete Vedic wisdom and the body you've directly received from me, the supreme cause of everything. 44. The sage Maitreya said, after instructing Brahma, the creator of the universe, to expand, the primeval Lord, the personality of Godhead, in his personal form as Narayan, disappeared. And that, devotees, is the end of the chapter. Let's go through it in detail now. So it's the third it's the third section in this chapter. Garbhodakshay Vishnu responds to Brahma, and it's from verse 29 to verse 44. 29. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then said, O Brahma, O depth of Vedic wisdom, be neither depressed nor anxious about the execution of creation. What you are begging from me has already been granted before. So, Prabhupada begins the purport by making very important and very wonderful point. Anyone who's authorized, either by the Lord or the Lord's bona fide representative, is already blessed, as is his work. Yes. So, if you have been given some particular service, in the case of Lord Brahma, it's creating the universe. That's a very big service, a huge service. But we may be blessed, or not just blessed, but authorized. We may be authorized, not exactly directly by the Lord face to face, of course, but certainly we may be authorized by the bona fide representative of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada, or even the representatives of Srila Prabhupada. As long as they're bona fide, they're properly situated, then if you're authorized by them, you're already blessed. And whatever service you've been given is already blessed. So, therefore, but such a person who has been given authorized to do a particular service, they have to always, Prabhupada says, they have to always be aware of their incapability. Who am I? Who am I to do some important transcendental service? Who am I? I'm just a fallen, conditioned soul. But somehow, because I'm authorized, I've been blessed. And if I really try in that humble mood, aware of my incapability, and if I'm just praying to the Lord for mercy, yes, then that's the right position. Two things. Always be aware of our incapability. Who am I? But then always turn to the Lord. I have been given this duty by your bona fide representative. Please be merciful so I can do my duty. And obviously, conversely, one should never be puffed up because one is given some responsible service, like temple president, department head like head pujari, head of Sankirtan book distribution, whatever it is. Even I remember my first service, devotees. I joined the temple, and initially I just did whatever I was asked for a few days. But after just a few days, not even 1 week, I was given my first regular service. Like every day at the same time, I had to do the service. And you know what it was? I was the pot washer in the kitchen in Berry Place in London. That's what I was. Then, the situation was so bad, actually, for pot washing. You know how bad it was. There was no hot water, that's one thing. There was no soap for washing the pots. All we had was if you've ever done pot washing before, Brillo pads, kind of metal pads, this wound up metal, little strips of metal sort of thing. And these big pots, which were cooking for 60 devotees. And they were so dirty, my God. They were just the bottoms of the pots, both inside and outside, were literally just black. So, there I was, and I got into it. I did not waste my time. I was really working at it. But it was just so difficult with the lack of facility that they saw I needed help. So this is after being the sole pot washer for 4 or 5 days, something like that. They realized I needed help, so they gave me someone to help me, and I became the head pot washer. My first position in ISKCON. So you should never be puffed up if you're entrusted with the responsible service like chief pot washer, head pot washer. Never be puffed up. So if one is fixed in a mood of subordination to the Lord, then you'll be successful. Like Arjuna was completely successful. If you know the situation there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Pandavas, Arjuna and the other Pandavas, they had far less of an army. The Kaurava army was much bigger. But because Arjuna was fixed in a mood of subordination to the Lord, he was successful, and his brothers were in the same mood. They were all successful. But the thing is that anyone who takes pride in doing some service and doesn't give credit to the Lord, they're falsely proud. And in due course it'll be seen that they can't do anything nicely. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, Brahma and persons in the line of his disciplic succession who follow in his footsteps are always successful in the discharge of loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord. Yes, they're always successful in their service to the Lord. And that's because they're fixed in the mood of subordination. Never puffed up. Always aware that I'm incapable. And always looking to the Lord for mercy to do their duty. This is, talk about the secret of success. My gosh. That's the essence of it right there. Okay, verse 30. O Brahma, situate yourself in penance and meditation, and follow the principles of knowledge to receive my favor. By these actions, you'll be able to understand everything from within your heart. Okay, so a short paragraph, basically. Short purport. So Prabhupada makes the point, and it's just such a point. The mercy the Lord gives someone who's doing responsible service is beyond imagination. Oh yeah, incredible mercy to do incredible things which the devotee, at least if the devotee is really Krishna conscious, the devotee will understand that I can't do this, but I am doing it. How is it possible? Only by mercy. That's all. Not because of me, only because of mercy. All I'm doing is taking shelter and trying my best, and by the mercy of the Lord, I'm doing my whatever responsible service it is. So Prabhupada goes on, we receive that mercy due to our penance and perseverance in devotional service. So Lord Brahma, of course, he was entrusted with big service creating the universe, planetary systems. And the Lord told him that when Brahma meditated, then he would easily know from within how to do it. Otherwise, it's incomprehensible. So the Lord told Brahma he didn't need to be in anxiety about that. It would come, the mercy would come. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, such instructions of Buddhi Yoga are directly imparted by the Lord from within, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10. You can look that one up, Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Tesham sadati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvikam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. That's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10. Okay, so verse 31. O Brahma, when you're absorbed in devotional service, in the course of your creative activities, you will see me in you and throughout the universe. And you will see that you yourself, the universe, and the living entities are all in me. So there's a shortish purport here. The Lord is saying, Srila Prabhupada saying, that the Lord, that during Brahma's daytime, when he's absorbed in his service, because at night he will sleep, Brahma will sleep during his night, but during his day, when he's absorbed in service, Brahma will see Krishna, will see the Lord as Krishna. Yes. Here, of course, who's speaking to him? Garbhadakshay Vishnu. But when he's doing his service during his daytime, Brahma will see him as Krishna. So then Brahma would appreciate how the Lord expanded himself into all the calves during his pastimes in Vrindavan. All these things Brahma would come to know. He would know how Yashoda saw the universe in Krishna's mouth. She actually saw all the universes, Prabhupada says, and planetary systems within Krishna's mouth during his playful childhood pastimes. And then he would also see that there are many millions of Brahmas during Krishna's time, 5,000 years ago, in Brahma's daytime. But the thing is, all these manifestations of the Lord can't be understood by anyone except the pure devotees. Yes. So in this way we understand that Lord Brahma is really highly qualified. He has a very high level of qualification in devotional service. Yes. Okay, so now on to verse 32. So Garbhadakshay Vishnu says, "You will see me in all living entities, as well as all over the universe, just as fire is situated in wood. Only in that state of transcendental vision will you be able to be free from all kinds of illusion." So into the purport of verse 32. So Lord Brahma had prayed, you may remember, he has prayed that he might not forget his eternal relationship with Lord Krishna during the course of doing his service. Prabhupada says his material activities, it's his service to the Lord to create all planetary systems and so on. But in a certain sense you could say it's material activities because all the planets and species of life, they're all material. So therefore, in answer to that prayer, the Lord is saying here that Brahma should not think of existing without a relationship with the Lord's power, omnipotency. He shouldn't think that he exists or he could exist without a relationship with the power of the Lord. It's only by the power of the Lord that all these things are going on. So Prabhupada gives an example, the example of fire in wood. The fire is always, it's fire, it's always the same. Although the wood, there may be different types of wood used. But the fire that comes from the different types of wood, fire is just fire. There's not this sort of fire or that sort of fire. So similarly, the bodies within the material creation may be different, but the different species, Prabhupada says, different shapes, different qualities, different sizes, and so on. But the spirit souls within those bodies are not different from one another. The spiritual spark is the same in every living entity. And in that way, the potency of the Lord is distributed all over his creation. And Prabhupada makes an important point that just knowing this transcendental knowledge, this transcendental knowledge alone can save one from the contamination of illusion. And since the Lord's potency is everywhere, if the devotees are tuned into the Lord, then they'll see everything in relationship with him. And in that way, they won't be affected by the outer coverings or the bodies. Yes. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying that pure spiritual conception makes him immune to all contamination of material association. That pure spiritual conception will make Lord Brahma immune to all contamination of material associations. The pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances. On to verse 33. When you are free from the conception of gross and subtle bodies, and when your senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, you will realize your pure form in my association. At that time, you will be situated in pure consciousness. Wow, that's just so wonderful, isn't it? Just amazing. Okay, so now there's a fairly substantial purport here to verse 33. Let's go through it. So, Prabhupada begins the purport. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says that a person who only desires to do devotional service is free, a free person in any condition of material existence. So that service attitude, that desire to render service to the Lord, that's our swarup, or our real form, as Lord Chaitanya states in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And what does Lord Chaitanya say? Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. The constitutional nature, swarup, of the jiva, of the living entity, jivera, that ending of era, means of, jivera, of the jiva, is to be the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada makes an interesting point in an interesting way. The Mayavad school shudders at the thought of a service attitude in the living entity. Oh, yeah, Prabhupada's so expert. They shudder at the thought of a service attitude, not knowing that in the transcendental realm, service of the Lord is based on transcendental love, which is very different from material love. Prabhupada says it's never to be compared with material love. So, there in the material world, even if you think you're nobody's servant, you're still servant of the senses under the modes. At least servant of the senses. You know, you may not be working for a boss, so you may think, I'm nobody's servant, but you're still the servant of your senses. Maybe you've got a dog or a cat or something like that. So you're still a servant under the modes. So the point is here in the material world, the point is no one's a master here. No one's a master here. And, you know, the thing is, they've had many bad experiences on the material level of either being a servant or having servants. Yeah. They've had bad experience of servitude, either being a servant and being mistreated by whoever you're serving, or having servants who often are just really not good, and they try and cheat the master. So again, Srila Prabhupada makes the point. He uses the same terminology, that the Mayavadis, impersonalists, they shudder at the thought of servitude because they've had bad experience of material servitude, as we just said, either as servants or or having servants. But they have so they shudder at the thought of servitude in general because they have no knowledge of the transcendental position and of being transcendental servants of the Lord. So, but in transcendental loving service, the servant is as free as the Lord. Both of them are, Prabhupada uses the term swarat. Swarat means independent. And how is that? That's because in the spiritual atmosphere, there is no forced service. There's plenty of service. There's just loads and loads of service, but it's all going on the basis of spontaneous love. And therefore it's just all very beautiful and all very wonderful, and there's so much affection flowing around from one person to another and then back and all around. So Prabhupada makes the point that that there are types of relationships in the material world which are like that. They're like that. He mentions the love of a mother for the child, the mother's love for the son, friend's service to the friend, wife's service unto the husband. These are there. And when they are done nicely, but only when they're done nicely, then you can see there's a reflection of that unforced service. But then again, it's not always like that at all. Prabhupada mentions the love of the mother for the son. But what about when the mother has the child aborted? What do you think of that? Oh, Krishna, Krishna. Or the friend cheats his friend. The friend runs off with his friend's wife. These things happen, they really happen. Or the wife to the husband. Well, when everything's going on nicely, that's fine. It's not exactly fine, but at least it's some sort of, recognizable reflection. There's some elements of pure love in it, to some degree, when the wife serves the husband. But sometimes the wife cheats the husband. Sometimes the husband cheats the wife. Sometimes they both cheat each other. And then it's perverted. But when all these things are nice, then they're going on the basis of love. But Prabhupada says, here in this material world, however, the loving service is only a reflection, and therefore it's prone to, corruption. It's really prone to corruption. Yes. So the real service, though, the Swarup, it's in the Swarup. It's present in the transcendental world. in association with the Lord. But at least here we can practice it by engaging in devotional service to the Lord under the spiritual master. So then there's a second paragraph, and Prabhupada makes the point that this verse is also applicable to the Gyanis. The enlightened Gyani, when free from material contamination, gross and subtle bodies, and the senses, and the modes, then they're liberated. They're placed, Prabhupada says, they're placed in the Supreme, and thus they're liberated from material bondage. So in this way, Prabhupada makes an interesting point. The Gyanis and the devotees are actually in agreement, up to the point of liberation from material contamination. But, however, then the devotees, because they make further spiritual advancement in loving service, they just go deeper and deeper into loving service. Then, they make further progress beyond the Gyanis. And the Gyanis, they just sort of stall, they just stop. Prabhupada says they remain pacified on the platform of simple understanding. Yeah. But the devotees develop spiritual individuality in their devotional service, which is just enhanced more and more as they go deeper into devotional service. Do more service, improve the quality of their service. Their spontaneous service attitude is enhanced on and on, up to the point of Madhurya Rasa, conjugal rasa, particularly as displayed in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, particularly with the gopis. Okay, so on to verse 34. So Garbhadakshay Vishnu says, since you have desired to increase the population innumerably and expand your varieties of service, you shall never be deprived in this matter, because my causeless mercy upon you will always increase for all time. Wow, that's incredible. So, Prabhupada says, pure devotee of the Lord, being cognizant of the circumstances in this world, the particular time, object, and circumstances, the situation in this material world, what it's like, what's going on. So therefore the pure devotee, being aware of the situation in the material world, always wants to see more people become devotees in various ways. I mean, there are all sorts of ways people can become devotees. I remember when I first moved into the temple in London, the way was, our preaching was, go on Harinam. That was it. And, as we're going on Harinam down the main street of London, or here and there, one devotee, usually one devotee, has some Back to Godhead magazines. And as we're going, that devotee's going with us and stopping people trying to distribute a magazine. And someone takes a magazine, then the devotee catches up with the party because the party moves on. And in this way, that was the program for getting more people to become devotees, and they did. But then Prabhupada introduced book distribution and told us instead of going out every day, all day on book distribution, we should focus more. Rather than going out all day on Harinam Sankirtan, we should focus more on book distribution. So we did that. And all the devotees who were going out previously on Harinam, they're now all distributing books. But on Saturday nights going on Harinam in central London. So by different means, Prabhupada says, in various ways, expanding the number of devotees. So of course to the materialistic people, any expansion that devotees do of transcendental service appears material to the materialists. So, typically the materialists, they see us distributing Prabhupada's books and they think, oh, they're trying to make money. It's just a business. Of course, we are trying to get money because we need to reprint the books. We pay money to get the books printed. We just give them away. How are we going to get more books? We've got to do something to get more money. So therefore, when distributing the books, we get money from the people. But actually the idea is that the people, the recipients of the books, they become devotees. And we take the money and we print more books to make more devotees. So therefore, the development, expansion of the Krishna consciousness movement, it may appear material to the materialists, but actually what's happening is that the mercy of the Lord towards the devotees and towards the non-devotees is being expanded. But particularly Prabhupada says their expansions, the different activities to expand the Krishna consciousness movement, they're expansions of mercy of the Lord towards the devotees. And Prabhupada concludes the purport. Plans for such activities may appear to be material activities, but they're different in potency, being engaged in the satisfaction of the transcendental senses of the Supreme. We'll do one more verse, I think. We'll do verse 35, and then tomorrow we'll finish this chapter. So Garbhadakshay Vishnu says to Lord Brahma, you are the original Rishi, and because your mind is always fixed on me, even though you'll be engaged in generating various progeny, the vicious mode of passion will never encroach upon you. Yeah, well. Now, if you remember, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the Supreme Lord gave the same assurance to Lord Brahma, to the same Lord Brahma, in the second canto, chapter 9, verse 36. So, and Prabhupada says, being so favored by the Lord, Brahma's schemes and plans are all infallible. And yeah, even though sometimes he may appear to be bewildered, but it's really just like when the cowherd boys and calves were stolen. It's just he's seeing the action of the internal energy. It's not exactly just Maya. And the same point applies to Arjuna. Well, the point here is that Lord Brahma, he was confused. he stole the cowherd boys and calves. And Arjuna was confused. He thought there's no need to fight. He shouldn't fight. But in both cases, they were really induced, you could say, induced by the Lord. As Prabhupada says when he concludes the purport, all such bewilderment of the pure devotees of the Lord is specifically meant for their further advancement in knowledge of the Lord. Yes. Now, when the impure devotees, the impure devotees who still have, at least to some degree, some material desire to enjoy something material, some other whatever, like, possibly the association of the opposite sex. A devotee who's not pure may very well, it's very common that there'll be some sort of tendency towards the opposite sex due to one's history and conditioning in this material world. So then it is material activity. Of course, it can be dovetailed. It can be dovetailed in the service of the Lord, and that's nice. But in these cases, Arjuna, of course, we know very well, Arjuna was put into a condition of confusion by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because Krishna wanted to teach us lessons about how we have to keep engaged in devotional service. Yeah. And similarly with Lord Brahma, with the cowherd boys and calves, it was just the arrangement of the Lord so that Brahma could learn, so that we can learn. So that we can learn that, don't get puffed up. Brahma apparently became puffed up and was thinking that he'll teach Krishna a lesson. They say Krishna's God, but I'm much bigger than Krishna. So I'll teach him a lesson. I'll teach him that lesson by stealing the cowherd boys and calves, and then he'll realize, I'm very small. I'm not a great person. That was Brahma's idea, or that was arguably an idea behind the pastime. But then Brahma learnt that always got to stay in a mood of service, very humble mood of service, don't think we're big, and just keep engaged in service to the Lord. So there you go, devotees. Hare Krishna. Well, from tomorrow we'll continue with verse 36. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.